Chapter 781. Rumble. Countless sounds of thunder and lightning suddenly rang out. Feng Wuan's face was filled with shock. She had just been pushed back by the powerful force of Luo Qingtong's advancement. She had not yet stabilized herself. That long dragon of thunder and lightning suddenly descended from the sky. Rumble. Countless shadows of thunder and lightning transformed into a long dragon of sword light, striking down from the sky. Such a scene was thunderous and shocking. The scene of Feng Wuan besieging Luo Qingtong, with countless long dragon whip shadows, was completely returned by the latter. The sword light was like a dragon, thundering and buzzing. Luo Qingtong's strength had been suppressed to the level of a martial king. She wielded the wind and thunder sword with her right hand and slashed down. Bang bang bang. Feng Wuan's figure was continuously pushed back by the thundering sword light. Under such circumstances, she was in an extremely sorry state. Countless shadows of sword light surrounded her, and the sound of the sword whistling was extremely sharp. Your Highness! Seeing that Feng Wuan's figure was completely enveloped by the thundering sword light, the people from Great Yong could not help but stand up with a bang. However, in front of Yi Qianxian and that transcendent saint from Great Chu, they did not dare to be rash. They could only anxiously look at the high platform. Impossible. Her Highness is the first princess of the Great Yong sacred dynasty, the first genius. Even if she suppressed her strength, it is impossible for her to not be a match for that Luo Qingtong. The other party is only the legitimate daughter of a marquis from a low-ranked country. In terms of resources, talent, and family background, how can she be a match for Her Highness? This move looks like a bluff. Her Highness will definitely be fine. However, when they thought of this, when the long dragon of sword light dissipated, their eyes were filled with shock. Bang! Feng Wuan's figure fiercely smashed onto the floor. She looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong in shock. The move used by her opponent actually carried a trace of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. How was this possible? Only martial arts techniques of the martial emperor level and above could carry a trace of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to assist in the attack. It was because he was originally a martial spirit realm expert that he was able to unleash such an attack. Why did Luo Qingtong do that? Even though she had just broken through to the martial emperor stage, the martial emperor stage was not the martial emperor stage. Could it be that when she was still a martial king, she had already grasped a martial emperor's martial skill? How was this possible? After all, even she was only able to master martial emperor level cultivation techniques and martial skills after reaching the martial emperor realm. Feng Wuan bit his lips and looked at Luo Qingtong. She didn't believe that Luo Qingtong's talent was greater than hers. It must be because Ming Zun had given her some help. It was just like how old Master Luo was able to use the power of the Saint realm when he was at the martial emperor realm. That must be it. Feng Wuan thought as he bit his lips. Luo Qingtong, don't be complacent. Let's see how long you can use that secret technique of yours. Feng Wuan remembered that old Master Luo's strength had returned to normal after the battle between him and the 7th Imperial Uncle. In other words, although that secret technique wouldn't harm the body, it definitely wouldn't last for long. With this thought in mind, Feng Wuan's figure instantly rose from the ground. She fiercely wiped the bloodstains from the corner of her lips. Her white robe flew up, and the shadow of the whip in her hand danced like a dragon again, striking towards Luo Qingtong. I don't believe that you can block it forever. Rumble. The long whip was as thick as a child's arm. It waved in the air like a giant python covered with barbs. It roared wildly as it flew towards Luo Qingtong to bite her. Chapter 782. Swish. Her figure suddenly leaped into the air. In the next second, she appeared directly in front of Feng Wuan. Boom! Feng Wuan brandished his long whip. Before the illusions of the dragon filling the sky could take shape, they were caught by Luo Qingtong. Just like a poisonous dragon that had just come out of its cave, its vital point was suddenly caught by someone. Rumble! Luo Qingtong's 5 fingers suddenly clenched. In an instant, the long whip shattered inch by inch under the powerful grip of her 5 fingers. Clatter! Like a dragon being dismembered by someone, the long whip in Luo Qingtong's hand was suddenly crushed into a pile of scrap iron. The powerful strength chi directly flew out and followed the long whip. Like a tidal wave, it crashed towards Feng Yuan, who was holding the long whip in her hand. Block. Luo Qingtong's smile was evil and domineering. No, she didn't need to block. Feng Yuan really underestimated her. With her strength suppressed to that of a martial king, she still wants me to block her attack? Those martial emperors and martial emperors who were instantly killed by her would probably cry. Even if Feng Yuan was already a rare genius, and his strength was suppressed to the martial king realm, he could still use the strength of the martial emperor realm and above. There was absolutely no way for her to block. Luo Qingtong was good at attacking. Boom boom boom. The long whip in Feng Yuan's hand shattered inch by inch under Luo Qingtong's movements. She hurriedly let go of her hand, but she was still shocked by the powerful energy transmitted from within, and directly flew back. This energy was incomparably solid, without the slightest bit of weakness. Feng Yuan's body was bombarded by this energy, and in an instant, he no longer had the slightest bit of hope. His heart was ice cold. Luo Qingtong's talent and strength were indeed not inferior to his. No, he was even stronger than her. Otherwise, even if Ming Zun had given her the method to use martial skills above the martial emperor realm, her strength would not be so solid. Even though Luo Qingtong had just reached the martial emperor realm, her strength was not weak at all. This only proved that the other party's talent was too strong. As soon as he broke through, he immediately understood the level of power of that realm. That was why her power was so condensed, and there wasn't a single gap that could be exploited. This was a girl who was not inferior to her in the slightest, and even more talented than her. Furthermore, the other party was much younger than her. In an instant, Feng Yuan's proud heart felt as if it had been struck by something. She believed that she was the true lady of destiny of this world. Her talent was outstanding, her schemes were outstanding, and she was both intelligent and brave. Almost no other girl could compare to her. But now Luo Qingtong had completely crushed her. At the same level of strength, Luo Qingtong, the legitimate daughter of a marquis from an inferior country, unexpectedly crushed her. How could Feng Yuan accept this? How could this be? How could she possibly lose to such a lowly person? Before this, Luo Qingtong was still a weak and pitiful person that she could casually kill with a single sentence. She didn't even need to lift a finger to deal with the other party. With just a single sentence, Luo Qingtong was almost killed. That pair of eyes was also blind. Under such circumstances, she was actually beaten to the point of vomiting blood by such a person. She was beaten to the point of retreating step by step, and her pride and dignity were all stepped on by the other party. This was impossible. She would never lose. Feng Yuan's eyes were bloodshot. Chapter 783. In an instant, Feng Yuan's eyes showed signs of turning purple and green. At this moment, with a boom, an extremely powerful force suddenly rose from within Feng Yuan's body. Feng Yuan's figure had just stabilized in midair, and was about to rush towards Luo Qingtong's location. However, the surge of energy caused her brain to buzz for a moment, and she lost control of her body. Master! Feng Yuan was shocked in his heart when he felt the energy aura that burst out from his body. Shut up! That voice shouted, and then her body uncontrollably rushed down, landing on the ground of the high platform. I admit defeat. Boom! Following Feng Yuan's voice, the attack that Luo Qingtong had been brewing in her hand suddenly exploded beside her. That attack almost brushed past her cheek. The sharp edge even burned the air in the sky. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes at Feng Yuan. Was it her imagination? She seemed to have just seen Feng Yuan's eyes change color. Different pupils? Feng Yuan's eyes actually also have different pupils? Luo Qingtong thought of the secret books related to ocular techniques in the Luo family's secret chamber. Although she knew that ocular technique masters existed in this world, this was the first time Luo Qingtong had met someone with such different pupils. Feng Yuan also had different pupils, so it was no wonder that she would poison the eyes of the original Luo Qingtong. It was obvious that this princess from the Great Yong dynasty did not want anyone to have the same eyes as her. What a pity, Luo Qingtong's eyes drooped. She actually admitted defeat. Otherwise, she would not have let her off so easily. But the future was long. She had plenty of opportunities to slowly play with this princess of Great Yong. It would be very interesting to strip her of her genius halo and noble status bit by bit. Right? As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she smiled and put away the attack in her hand. Then she descended casually. I admit defeat. Feng Luan's heart was full of humiliation and unwillingness. However, she could not control her body at all, and could only lower her head to admit defeat to Luo Qingtong. She did not know why her master would suddenly appear to stop her. But if she used her different pupils, she would not lose to Luo Qingtong. Thinking that she, the dignified princess of Great Yong, had to lower her head to Luo Qingtong, the legitimate daughter of an inferior marquis from a low-ranked country, Feng Luan's heart was in turmoil, and she was so ashamed that she wanted to die. Good. Luo Qingtong looked at Feng Luan, raising her eyebrows and saying, since Princess Feng Luan has admitted defeat, then sign the letter of agreement. In addition, I will not return the corpse of Great Yong's seventh prince. I ask that Great Yong keep to its word, and not use this matter to cause trouble in the future. As Luo Qingtong said this, Feng Luan felt even more humiliated. I know. She clenched her teeth and squeezed out a sentence. She had lost her imperial uncle's corpse, lost the powerful bloodline of Great Yong's imperial family, and still had to sign a 10-year non-aggression agreement with Great Chu. If it weren't for Feng Yuan's mental fortitude being considered tough, he would have definitely fainted from anger. Her only consolation was that even if Luo Qingtong took her imperial uncle's corpse, she could only destroy it to vent her anger. Without Great Yong's secret technique, the imperial bloodline in her imperial uncle's body would not be stolen or lost. As for the 10-year non-aggression agreement, Great Yong could not invade Great Chu, but could she not do it from other places? The Empire of Qin, Great Qi, and so on. Chapter 784. Thinking of this, Feng Luan suddenly felt a rush of blood in his head. Pa! She angrily threw the letter of credence that had just been signed in front of Luo Qingtong. Then she turned around and said to the people of Great Yong who had rushed in front of her, let's go. The group then left the Chu Palace in a sorry state. Feng Luan and the seventh prince of Great Yong were so arrogant and determined to win before, but now they were in a sorry state. The group of people were like stray dogs, running away with their tails between their legs under the mocking and disdainful gazes of the people of the Chu Palace. Your Highness! After Feng Luan and others left, an attendant of the Chu Palace immediately came up to the stage. He picked up the letter of credence that Feng Luan had thrown on the ground and handed it to Luo Qingtong, saying with a happy expression, congratulations to Your Highness on your victory. The expression and voice of the attendant were indescribably respectful and happy. This young miss of a marquis's household from a low-level family in a low-level country was not an ordinary person. Not to mention her talent that was enough to defeat Great Yong's Princess Feng Luan. She had now won a 10-year contract for Great Yong for Great Chu. She was the benefactor of the entire Chu sacred dynasty. Not to mention that she was the princess of Great Chu personally conferred by Empress Dowager Yan Shi, and her grandfather would become the emperor of the Chu royal family. In addition, there was the protection of the Black Field. Who would dare to slight her for all of these reasons? Therefore, the attendant didn't try to hide his words at all, and directly called out. As his words sounded, the people of Great Chu around also seemed to wake up from a dream and directly shouted, congratulations to Your Highness on your victory. Haha. On the stands, the transcendent saint of the Chu sacred dynasty was very happy. He laughed and said, that's right, congratulations to Your Highness on your victory. Haha. Ministers of Great Chu. From now on, Luo Qingtong of the Marquis's household of the Easternly Kingdom is the Holy Princess of Great Chu. She will be given the title of Holy, and the title of Holy Princess. The transcendent saint of the Great Chu sacred dynasty was extremely happy. Not only had Great Yong's scheme been thwarted, but they had also given Great Chu a 10-year contract of non-aggression. With this agreement, he could continue to cultivate in seclusion with peace of mind. This was all thanks to Luo Qingtong and Luo Tong. He willingly gave her the title of Holy Conferred Princess. When he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his hand. In an instant, A beam of light flew from above the imperial temple of the Great Chu sacred dynasty. With a boom, the five-colored light entered Luo Qingtong's body. Buzz! Above the holy capital of Great Chu, countless holy bells rang in the ancestral shrine, as the heavenly altar offered sacrifices to the heavens, announcing to the world that the Great Chu Emperor had conferred the title of princess, and the conferment was established. This was a transcendent saint from the Great Chu sacred dynasty. Naturally, it was not as troublesome to confer the title of holy princess as usual. In just an instant, the Great Chu sacred dynasty's edict had spread throughout the holy capital. Great Chu has conferred the title of holy princess. His title is Sheng Ning. Following this holy bell edict, the entire holy capital boiled over in an instant. Holy conferred princess? Great Chu has conferred the title of holy princess? My God! This movement is a transcendent saint from the Great Chu royal family. I don't know which young genius of the Great Chu royal family it is. I have never heard of a young girl in the Great Chu royal family who is qualified to confer the title of holy princess. Could it be a genius from a collateral branch? My God! With the title of holy, one can enjoy the protection of the Great Chu kingdom, the honor of being a half-emperor. Among the 4 dynasties of the eastern region, one can run amok without kneeling or worshipping when seeing a saint. This royal girl from a collateral branch is likely to soar to the sky. Yes. Chapter 785. Cough. Yi Qianming calmed down. In a spacious and gorgeous room, Luo Qingtong was trapped between the man and the bed. One of her hands was pressed against Yi Qianming's chest, and she could feel a burning sensation from her hand. The man's breath seemed to have completely blended with hers. Male pheromones filled the air. Coupled with their current position, one on top of the other, it made the atmosphere even more ambiguous. After Luo Qingtong was conferred the title of Princess Sheng Ning, she handed the letter to Old Master Luo and asked him to give it to the transcendent saint of the Great Chu sacred dynasty. She then prepared to leave the Great Chu imperial palace. However, before she could go far, she was captured by Yi Qianming and brought here. I'm very calm right now. Yi Qianming narrowed his eyes and looked at the unusually obedient and cute girl in front of him. This woman would only be like this when she felt guilty. She usually had an evil and cunning look. Then let me go first. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned slightly. Seeing this man like this, she knew that he must be angry again. But she had been very well behaved recently. She had been busy raising her grandfather's strength when she had nothing to do. She hadn't done anything bad, right? Why was this man like this? Suddenly, Luo Qingtong thought of the bet she had with the heavenly doctor in the Blackfield main city. At that time, she remembered that the other party had asked her to leave this man if she lost. Oh no, this man couldn't be angry because of this, right? Luo Qingtong thought of this and suddenly felt guilty. She knew that this man would be unhappy. At that time, she didn't want to agree to the heavenly doctor's bet. Wasn't it because the temptation of the square immortal cauldron was too great, and she was confident that she wouldn't lose? After all, she had already fought with the other party once in the Great Chu imperial palace. If the other party hadn't made a prompt decision, she might not have had the chance to go to the Blackfield main city to find trouble with her. Under such circumstances, the other party had bet with her on the square immortal cauldron. It was completely giving her a treasure. Of course, she couldn't help but agree. Luo Qingtong thought of this and suddenly felt embarrassed. Great, this man came back to settle the score with her. What if I say no? Yi Qianming narrowed his cold eyes and looked at the young girl who had her head lowered. This woman, when others said that they would bet with her and asked her to leave him after she lost, she really agreed. Yi Qianming gritted his teeth as he thought about it. He suddenly bent down and bit the girl's tender and slender neck. Then, he was tempted by the fresh and smooth feeling. In the next second, the light in his eyes instantly darkened. That bite, which was originally filled with anger, also became lighter. It slowly gnawed its way down. Hiss! Luo Qingtong almost jumped up because of Yi Qianming's bite. Then the man's actions changed. Luo Qingtong froze for a moment before breaking free from Yi Qianming's embrace. Bang! Yi Qianming's eyes were burning. He raised his hand and grabbed the girl who had escaped from his arms, pressing her under his body again. You can't win against me. He looked at the beautiful girl, who was like a flower under him, and the light in his eyes darkened to the extreme. This time, he didn't want her to escape. Is that so? Luo Qingtong looked at him and suddenly smiled slyly. I don't think so. Chapter 786. Luo Qingtong said as she licked her lips. The smile on her lips was abnormally evil and enchanting. In the next second she moved. Ah! Following Luo Qingtong's movement, Yi Qianming suddenly groaned. Then Luo Qingtong suddenly turned over and sat on him. How is it? I said I can win, right? Luo Qingtong's expression was abnormally enchanting and evil. She placed her right hand under Yi Qianming's lower abdomen. She held the man's huge member in her hand and gently moved it rhythmically. The girl's eyes were curved and the smile on her lips was indescribably evil. I'm right? Luo Qingtong leaned over and breathed in Yi Qianming's ear. The expression on her face was demonic and evil to the extreme. Coupled with her peerlessly beautiful face, she was like a demon that bewitched people's hearts. Anyone who saw her would hate that they could not hold her in their hands and take her for themselves. This demon! Yi Qianming gritted his teeth and groaned as he watched Luo Qingtong leave. He didn't expect that Luo Qingtong would use such a method to escape from his hands, so he didn't put up any defenses. In fact, he didn't have any resistance against Luo Qingtong. Not to mention that the other party used such a method to make him lose his resistance. This woman was really thinking of the feeling of his huge member being moved by the other party, and then thinking of Luo Qingtong's evil and crimson face. Yi Qianming's heart was burning, and his lips were slightly raised. Let's see how long you can hide. That woman would sooner or later face up to her feelings. Swoosh! Luo Qingtong rushed out of the room and rushed out. She found that she was still in the Great Chu Palace. Yi Qianming was so daring that after kidnapping her, he ran to a remote palace in the Great Chu Palace. He wasn't afraid of being discovered. Thinking of how she used such a method to take him down, that man would be very angry. Luo Qingtong suddenly coughed softly. She decided to leave for a few days to lie low and wait for that man's anger to subside. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly thought of the corpse of Great Yong's seventh prince in her hands. It just so happened that she wanted to extract the bloodline power from it. She would take this opportunity to go out and hide for a few days. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong rushed out. She directly returned to her spirit ship and picked up Little Pig, who was thrown there by Yi Qianming. Let's go! As she spoke, she drove the spirit ship out of the Chu Imperial Palace and left the sacred capital of the Chu dynasty. What's the matter with you? Why are you fleeing? Little Pig looked at her, blinked his little eyes. Wasn't this woman taken away by that man? Why did she come back? And why was she in such a hurry, in front of that man, who would dare to cause trouble for her? Cough! Luo Qingtong coughed softly. She didn't say that she had tricked Yi Qianming again. She only said, didn't you say that you can extract the bloodline power from Great Yong's seventh prince? How do you do it? She didn't think that the bloodline power was so easy to extract. There must be some restrictions. Otherwise, Feng Yuan and the others wouldn't have let it go so easily. They must think that they couldn't extract it. Just throw it into the square immortal cauldron. Little Pig said, that immortal cauldron can refine everything, but it requires a special method to use it. Others may not have a way, but you should have no problem, right? If not, it wouldn't let her snatch the corpse. Yes. Luo Qingtong nodded. She indeed had no problem. Since that's the case, let's go there. Chapter 787. Jiawu Mountain Range, Tianxia Valley. Firstly, there was no one there to disturb Luo Qingtong, making it convenient for her to extract the bloodline power from the seventh prince of Yong. Secondly, grandfather Luo was about to marry Empress Dowager Yan Shi. It was impossible for Luo Qingtong not to prepare a congratulatory gift. The Tianxia Valley contained the treasury of the Tianyu royal family that she had placed there. The good stuff inside could be used to refine pills as a congratulatory gift for her grandfather. Thirdly, Yi Qianxian was nowhere to be found. Luo Qingtong thought as she turned the boat around and headed towards Dongli Kingdom. While Luo Qingtang was leaving the holy capital of Great Chu, Feng Yuan and the others, who had fled pathetically, were resting in a city on the border of the Great Yong dynasty. Master! In the luxurious palace, Feng Yuan ordered everyone to retreat. He gritted his teeth and said, "Why did you make me admit defeat?" Just thinking of those things that happened in the Great Chu imperial palace before, Feng Yuan felt unbearably humiliated. She was not supposed to lose. As long as she used her other pupils, Luo Qingtang would not be her match. Why did her master stop her? Let Luo Qingtang be on top of her? Feng Yuan was very unwilling. You had completely lost your mind at that time. If I let you use your other pupils, you would definitely kill Luo Qingtang. Do you think you will have a chance to survive in front of the Blackfield's underworld revered? A voice in her mind scolded angrily. I helped you admit defeat to save you. Do you think you have the ability to escape from the Blackfield's underworld revered? If you can do it, I will not stop you. The anger in this voice was not concealed at all. God knows he was also frightened. With the Blackfield's underworld revered covering for Luo Qingtang, if Feng Yuan really killed Luo Qingtang, then they would all die there and be buried with Luo Qingtang. At that time, even he would not be spared. That was why he had rushed out to stop Feng Yuan without caring about anything else. Feng Yuan was speechless. At that time, she did want to kill Luo Qingtang. Why was it that Luo Qingtang and the evil Dr. Ghost could get what she couldn't get? Let's not talk about the evil Dr. Ghost but what about Luo Qingtang? Just because the Luo family had a relationship with the evil Dr. Ghost she was able to follow them and obtain the protection of the Blackfield's Mingzun? What did she do to deserve this? What's more, the daughter of the first wife of a low-level family from a low-level country was actually not inferior to her in terms of talent and strength. At that time, Feng Yuan had completely lost his mind after being crushed by someone of the same level. The voice coldly snorted and said, Feng Yuan, you really disappoint me. You have strange pupils, and your talent is extraordinary. In the future, you will surely be an important candidate to fight for the mandate of heaven, or even a man of heaven. In your current situation, do you even have the slightest bit of demeanor of a man of heaven? A mere daughter of a small country, her talent and strength are only a bit better than yours at this stage. As for what will happen in the future, I don't even know. On the road of cultivation, the higher you go, the more difficult it is. That Luo Qingtang might be fierce now, but she might not be so in the future. As for you, you are a peerless proud son of heaven, who will soon step into the saint realm. What are you afraid of her for? This is only a competition where one's strength is suppressed. So what if she defeats you? If you have the time to be jealous of her, you might as well think about how to increase your strength and step into the saint realm. You might be able to compete for a transcendence spot. At that time, you will be able to sweep away most of the powerhouses of the true Spill continent. Are you afraid that the Blackfield's Mingzun won't be able to see your excellence? Chapter 788. That voice reprimanded harshly. Feng Yuan bit her lips as she listened. Yes, master. I understand. Feng Yuan was truly unwilling to give up. That was why she kept finding trouble with Luo Qingtang and the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Now that she heard her master's words, she seemed to have come to a realization. That's right. No matter how outstanding Luo Qingtang and the evil Dr. Ghost Eye were, they might not be able to compare to her. As long as her strength could continue to increase, would she still be afraid that Mingzun would not be able to see her? She was really blinded by the fact that Blackfield's Mingzun doted on the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. That was why she did this series of things. It's good that you have come to a realization. That voice said with satisfaction. Remember, you are the possessor of different pupils. In the future, you will definitely be different. There is no need to lower yourself to the level of some petty people. Even if Luo Qingtang and the evil Dr. Ghost Eye's medical skills and talent are better than yours now, they will not be able to compare to you in the future. In the future, you will be the one chosen by the heavens. You will not be on the same path as them. Master, you always talk about the heavens. What is the heavens? What does it have to do with different pupils? Feng Wuan touched her eyes and asked with a gloomy gaze. If she did not know that different pupils were the symbol of the heavens, she would not have decisively destroyed Luo Qingtong's eyes, after knowing that she had different pupils. One must know that she was a dignified princess of Great Yong. Why would she go so far as to make things difficult for the legitimate daughter of a marquis of a low-level country? Even if Luo Qingtong was Yuanma's fiancé at that time, it was not worth her doing anything. She was only afraid that her different pupils would threaten her. Feng Wuan's gaze had already changed. Her eyes were now purplish-green. That pair of green eyes was actually 70 to 80% similar to the Luo Qingtong of the past. Feng Wuan's eyes were clearly darker, faintly showing signs of transitioning to purple. You don't need to ask about this. In short, you only need to know that different pupils are the symbol of the heavens. When different pupils appear, heaven and earth are born. This is a prophecy of heaven and earth. The voice said. If it wasn't for Feng Wuan's extraordinary pupils and outstanding talent, with his high level of vision and strength, how could he have taken him as a disciple and guided him in his cultivation? In his eyes, this true spill continent was nothing at all. Master, is there a difference in strength between those with different pupils? Or are they all the same? Feng Wuan asked cautiously. In the past, this wisp of smoke would not tell her these things. Using today's matter as an excuse, he could ask about it. Originally, I didn't want to tell you these things right now, but since you lack confidence, I'll tell you. There is indeed a hierarchy between the different pupils. Your purplish-green eyes can be considered above average. It can be considered a top-notch eye color. The purer the eye color, the more ocular techniques one can learn. The faster one can learn them, and the stronger the power one can unleash. As the voice spoke, Feng Wuan suddenly asked, what if a person is born with all the ocular techniques? That's impossible. Haha. The voice laughed and said, all eye techniques must be cultivated before they can unleash their full power. If there is someone in this world who is born with all the ocular techniques, and can use them perfectly, then you don't need to compete for the heavens. Chapter 789. However, this is impossible. You don't need to think too much about it. Feng Wuan immediately nodded as the voice spoke. However, in her heart, she felt somewhat uncomfortable because she wasn't the one blessed by the heavens. If only she knew all the ocular techniques from the start, then she wouldn't need to fight for the mandate of heaven, and could directly become the mandate of heaven. Although she didn't know what the mandate of heaven represented, from that heavenly prophecy, Feng Wuan could tell how powerful the mandate of heaven was. Heaven and earth would be born when the strange eyes appeared. Everything in the world depended on her to be born. Then wouldn't the mandate of heaven be even more powerful than the heavenly Tao? As Feng Wuan thought about it, she felt even more uncomfortable. Fortunately, although she wasn't that kind of person, no one else was. When the time came to fight for the mandate of heaven, there would still be a place for her. As Feng Wuan thought about it, she felt a bit better. Master, after I return, I will enter the Great Yong Sacred Academy to cultivate. She said to the wisp of smoke. I'm determined to win the 4 regions competition half a year from now. At that time, Luo Qingtong and the evil Dr. Ghost I will be nothing to me. Feng Wuan was brimming with confidence. Moreover, she heard that Luo Qingtong had also entered the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin. As she thought about it, Feng Wuan suddenly sneered. Previously, she had indeed thought wrongly. Why would she be angry with such a person? She didn't know how strong she would be in the future. Moreover, once she entered the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin, there would be many people waiting to receive her. That Yuanma had attracted many peach blossoms. As Feng Wuan thought about it, she immediately ordered people to spread the news that Luo Qingtong was Yuanma's fiancé. Of course, she deliberately concealed the fact that Luo Qingtong had become the sacred princess of Great Chu. She would let those people from the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin deal with her. Yuanma didn't want others to know that he had such a fiancé. How could that be? I will help Luo Qingtong. Let her become famous in the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. As Feng Wuan thought of this, he suddenly smiled gracefully. Come, let's return to Great Yong. Luo Qingtong didn't know that Feng Wuan had spread the news that she was Yu Wenma's fiancé to the whole Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. But even if she knew, she wouldn't care. He had originally planned to break off the engagement after going to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. Feng Wuan's actions had saved her a lot of trouble. Otherwise, no one would know that she was Yu Wenma's fiancé. If she went to cancel the engagement herself, people would think that she was purposely trying to make her presence known. Luo Qingtong didn't know about Feng Wuan's actions. If she knew, she would definitely thank her. As for enemies, Luo Qingtong wasn't afraid of having too many enemies. It wasn't like she hadn't experienced the days of being the enemy of the entire world. Feng Wuan's methods were completely child's play to her. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was studying the usage of the square immortal cauldron. Using Little Pig, she found out that the square immortal cauldron could not only refine pills, but could also refine all things. It was indeed a divine cauldron. Luo Qingtong thought, and directly used her eye technique. The bloody light in her eyes flickered, and she quickly analyzed the effects and usage of the divine cauldron. However, she could only use the lowest level of techniques. With her current strength, she couldn't use the higher level techniques. But this was already enough. After all, the corpse of the seventh prince that she wanted to refine was only in the sage realm. The techniques that Luo Qingtong analyzed were completely enough. Chapter 790. Luo Qingtong tried to activate the flames in the square immortal cauldron and quickly determined the method to extract the bloodline power from Great Yong's seventh prince's body and how to use it. Little Pig clicked his tongue as he watched from the side. This perverted woman actually saw through everything. Even a god wouldn't be this powerful. This is a divine cauldron, although she could only use the lowest level of those techniques. But in a situation where he didn't know anything, he knew how to use it after getting it. Those who didn't know would think that she was the one who refined this cauldron. The geniuses of your generation must be very miserable. They would be crushed into ashes, Little Pig said. Then he added, "Of course, that man is an exception. That man was already an inhuman genius. In the end, this woman was also an inhuman. These two people just had to be together. How could they let others live?" Little Pig observed a moment of silence for the others. Luo Qingtong couldn't be bothered with him. However, when she heard him mention Yi Qianxian, the corner of her lips couldn't help but twitch. Cough. I wonder how much of that man's anger has subsided after these few days? Luo Qingtong pondered for a moment. Then, she looked at the 9 phoenix ring in her hand and wondered if she should use it to check on him. It had been a long time since the last time, and her consciousness had almost recovered. This time, she should be able to go over again. Luo Qingtong asked Little Pig to keep an eye on the spirit ship and prevent it from going off the wrong path. Then, she immersed her consciousness into the 9 phoenix ring. In the city lord's mansion of the Black Field, Yi Qianxian sat in front of a gold-rimmed black wooden table. He was reviewing the accumulated documents in the Black Field. They were waiting for him to come back and sign them. Sensing the vibration of the 10-sided dragon ring on his left ring finger, he narrowed his eyes coldly. However, he didn't do anything. Luo Qingtong had locked him in the palace. Although she had called Beiqing and Feng Yu over before she left, Luo Qingtong still had not found him. However, Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth. What was he like at that time? This woman is really... Yi Qianxian took a deep breath and suppressed the bulging veins on his forehead. Ever since he met this woman, the number of times he had been humiliated and angered was 10 times more than before. Paji. Luo Qingtong fell out of the space of consciousness of the 10-sided dragon ring. However, she was experienced this time, and turned into a mini loli as soon as she came out. Yi Qianxian. She looked at Yi Qianxian, who had his head buried in the documents, and walked over with her short legs with a smile. Yi Qianxian narrowed his cold eyes, and looked straight ahead as if she didn't exist. Yi Qianxian. Luo Qingtong walked back and forth in front of him, swaying back and forth. Yi Qianxian refused to look at her. His face was cold as he went through the documents. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The black weasel hairbrush swept around Luo Qingtong. Yi Qianxian's expression was cold. Because the man was alone, He had already taken off the dark gold mask on his face, revealing his devilishly handsome face that would make men and gods jealous. His long black hair was not tied into a crown, perhaps because it was casual. It just hung slightly to one side, and was tied up with a gold and silver hairband. The man at this moment, from the cold and icy Mingzun, looked a little unruly and scholarly. It added some gentleness to him, and softened the coldness of his face. The Yi Qianxian now did not look like the ruthless Mingzun of the Black Field, who held the power of life and death in his hands. Instead, he looked like a rich young master who lived in luxury. He was elegant, noble and gentle. Yi Qianxian. Chapter 791. Pa! She hugged Yi Qianya's weasel hairbrush. If you ignore me, I won't let you write. Luo Qingtong hugged the weasel hairbrush with her small arms and legs. Her whole body was plastered to the weasel hairbrush. It looked like a huge doll was hanging on the weasel hairbrush. Yi Qianxian's hand holding the brush paused, and he raised his head slightly. Just when Luo Qingtong thought he was going to talk to her, the man raised his other hand, grabbed her by the back of her neck, and lifted her off the weasel hairbrush. I'm not leaving, I'm not leaving. Luo Qingtong hugged the weasel hairbrush and refused to let go. However, how could her small arms and legs be stronger than Yi Qianxian's? In the end, she was pulled out by him. Luo Qingtong saw that she couldn't win against him, so she immediately picked up the document on his desk. She couldn't hold the brush, but she could at least hold the document, right? Let's see how he's going to sign without the document. If he had the ability, he could pull it from her hands. She wouldn't be responsible if he tore it apart. Yi Qianxian looked at her coldly. Just when Luo Qingtong thought he would definitely talk to her this time, Yi Qianxian put down the weasel hairbrush in his hand and strode out with his long legs. F***ck. Luo Qingtong stood among the pile of documents and saw him get up. She immediately chased after him. Yi Qianxian. She ran with her short legs and called out. She fell with a bang. Just as she was about to hit the door in front of her, a large hand descended from the sky and caught her. Yi Qianxian. Luo Qingtong's eyes curved when she saw the man's cold face. His handsome face didn't hide his cold face at all. She knew that this man couldn't bear to see her get hurt. She hugged Yi Qianxian's large hand and rubbed it twice. Moi, what was moral integrity? She was now Luo Xiaoqi. She didn't understand moral integrity. Little dolls should be used to act cute. Yi Qianxian looked at her with a cold face. He wanted to shake her off, but he was afraid that she would get hurt because of her small appearance. It wouldn't be good if it affected her body. After all, Luo Qingtong wasn't as strong as he was when he became Little Mingzun. However, if he didn't shake her off, this woman's petite, cute, and obedient appearance really made him unable to harden his heart. If this woman was as obedient as she was when she was in her body, she was cunning. Yi Qianxian's face was cold, and he continued to walk out. His sleeves hung down and covered Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong poked her head out of his sleeve. Master. When Yi Qianxian came out, Bei Qing and Feng Yu bowed to him. They lowered their heads and saw Luo Qingtong under Yi Qianxian's sleeves. Evil! Bei Qing almost screamed when she saw Luo Qingtong. Feng Yu covered her mouth and dragged her away. Didn't this husky see that his master was pretending not to see the evil doctor with a cold face? If he screamed, he would be in trouble later. Feng Yu thought so and dragged Bei Qing away. Before leaving, she didn't forget to report to Yi Qianxian. Master, the meal is ready. It's in the side hall. Bei Qing and I have something to do, so we'll leave first. The two of them ran away. Yi Qianxian looked at their backs and didn't say anything. When he was with Luo Qingtong, he didn't like outsiders. Especially now. Yi Qianxian entered the side hall with a cold face. The meal was already set on the table. There were plates of extremely sumptuous food. Yi Qianxian looked at it indifferently and coldly. He sat down and prepared to eat. Although he wasn't hungry, he didn't want to bother with Luo Qingtong. Chapter 792. What are you doing? He gritted his teeth and looked at Luo Qingtong. The latter was lying in his bowl, and was even hugging his chopsticks. Why didn't he know that this woman was so shameless? You're finally paying attention to me? When Luo Qingtong heard him talking to her, she immediately got up from the bowl and threw herself into the man's arms. Yi Qianxian, are you not angry anymore? Luo Qingtong blinked and looked at Yi Qianxian. After shrinking, Luo Qingtong raised her head and looked at people. She looked like a beautiful little loli and was very cute. Humph! Yi Qianxian snorted. Before he could say anything, Luo Qingtong had already leaned over and kissed him on the lips. In the end, he even licked it. Don't be angry, okay? She hugged the man's extremely handsome face and nuzzled her face against it. Luo Qingtong was prepared to be shameless to the end. This body was so cute right now. It would be a waste of resources not to use it to soften this man's heart. Yi Qianxian's face was held by her small hands. The little loli's hands were warm and soft to the touch, especially when this woman was kissing his lips without any integrity. Yi Qianxian's eyes darkened. Did this woman think that he couldn't do anything to her now that she looked like a little loli? He lifted Luo Qingtong from his arms. With a pop, a burst of energy suddenly emerged from his body and rushed into the 10-directional dragon ring on his left ring finger. Through the connection between the Shifeng dragon ring and the 9 nether phoenix ring, Luo Qingtong's body suddenly seemed to rush into a power. She opened her eyes slightly. In the next second, her body changed from a little loli back to her normal form. Then Yi Qianxian's body pressed down. Oh! Luo Qingtong raised her head and accepted the man's kiss. In the next second she retaliated. Their lips and tongues were entangled together, and the entire room was filled with an ambiguous and sweet atmosphere. After the kiss, Luo Qingtong licked her lips and looked at the man in front of her, whose eyes were getting darker and colder. She leaned over and kissed the corner of his eyes. Don't be mad. Yi Qianxian looked at her darkly without saying a word. Paji, the power in Luo Qingtong's body didn't last long, and she returned to her little lowly form. She clung to the man's neck and hung from his body. Don't be angry, don't be angry. She rubbed against the man's Adam's apple coquettishly and nibbled on his Adam's apple from time to time. Yi Qianxian was infuriated by her. He raised his hand and pulled her off his body. His voice was hoarse and gloomy. Stop playing with fire. This woman, if she had the ability, why didn't she try flirting with him in her original form? Where are you? Where are you? Yi Qianxian's fingers gently rubbed Luo Qingtong's lips. The girl's lips were pink and delicate, like flower petals. Yi Qianxian's eyes darkened. I'm refining pills for Grandpa outside. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned slightly. She still didn't know if this man's anger had subsided or not. She'd better take it easy. She'd come back when Grandpa got married. Humph! Yi Qianxian snorted softly. He saw through her thoughts and didn't ask any more questions. Anyway, this woman would definitely come back when Grandpa Luo got married. If it wasn't for this, how could he be so calm when this woman ran away after setting her eyes on him? Chapter 793. This woman was normally as cunning and evil as a fox, but at the critical moment, she was like a rabbit. However, Yi Qianxian wasn't prepared to force Luo Qingtong. Take your time. One day, this woman would accept his feelings and face her own heart. While Luo Qingtong was rushing towards Heavenly Evil Valley, Yu Wenma was sitting in a simple and spacious courtyard within the Empire of Qin's sacred courtyard. He had just learned from his teacher that his Yu Wenma family had been destroyed. The royal family of Tianyu Empire had been completely annihilated. Even the Tianyu Empire had been seized by others. The throne had changed hands. However, he was completely powerless to do anything. His teacher's words resounded in Yu Wenma's mind. I know you are unwilling. You are my most outstanding disciple. Even in the Empire of Qin's sacred courtyard, you are a rare genius seed. Teacher should have told you about the destruction of Tianyu's royal family earlier. But when you came back from the Yuan opening mystic realm, you immediately went into seclusion. It is important for you to increase your strength, but the destruction of Tianyu's royal family is a foregone conclusion. Teacher decided to conceal this matter, so as not to disturb your breakthrough. The one who destroyed Tianyu's royal family is an honored guest of the Black Field. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye is one of the most popular figures in the entire True Spill continent. Her medical skills and alchemy skills are amazing. Even the sacred courtyard's alchemy saint master would have to admire the medicinal liquids she refines. Every bottle of medicine that she concocted was perfectly concocted. Extreme realm. Not only that, but she is also an alchemist with the Black Field backing her. I don't know how your royal family offended her, but with the Black Field there is no way for you to take revenge. If you listen to your teacher, then forget about this matter and focus on your cultivation. With the Empire of Qin's sacred courtyard there, the Black Field won't come looking for trouble with you. Wait until your strength increases in the future, then you will have the right to speak. His teacher's words resounded in his mind. But Yu Wenma was unwilling. He had always boasted that he was the pride of the heavens, and that he was not inferior to the disciples of the major forces and families in the Empire of Qin dynasty. As long as he was given the chance, he would definitely soar into the sky. But now, his family had been annihilated and his empire had been seized. But there was nothing he could do. What kind of humiliation was this? Yuan Mo's life in the Tianyu Empire had always been smooth. He was a genius that everyone looked up to. His journey to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin had been smooth sailing as well. Apart from the humiliation he suffered in the sub-city of the Black Field, he hadn't suffered any major setbacks. Thinking of this, Yuan Ma suddenly clenched his fists. That incident in the Black Field was the biggest setback in his smooth-sailing life. It was also the biggest humiliation he had ever suffered. And the person who brought him such unbearable humiliation was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Was it because of this that they attacked the Tianyu Empire? After all, with their identities as disciples of the Holy Academy and the Black Field's intelligence network, it was very easy for them to find out his identity and origin. Was it because the evil Dr. Ghost Eye didn't humiliate him at that time, so he took it out on the royal family of Tianyu? If that was the case, it would explain why the royal father and the others, who were always cautious, suddenly provoked the evil Dr. Ghost Eye and attracted the hatred of the Killer Clan. Chapter 794. What he didn't know was that Tianyu's imperial family was exterminated because they wanted to control Luo Qingtong. They brought this upon themselves. However, the imperial family thought that he was deeply in love with Luo Qingtong, so they deliberately hid this matter from him. Thus, Yuan Ma, who didn't know the truth, misunderstood, thinking that it might be because of him that they attacked Tianyu's imperial family. Yuan Ma's heart was filled with hatred. He clenched his fists tightly. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from the side. Senior brother. The junior sister looked worriedly at Yuan Ma, who was in the pavilion in the courtyard. She said, Senior brother, don't ruin your body. Although evil Dr. Ghost Eye has Black Field as his backer, it's not like we don't have a chance at revenge. Half a year from now, as long as senior brother can stand out in the Eastern Domain and enter the four-domain gathering, you'll definitely be recognized by the experts there. At that time, senior brother's strength will increase, and you'll be able to find trouble with evil Dr. Ghost Eye. As she said this, Yuan Ma suddenly moved. That's right. Although evil Dr. Ghost Eye was protected by Black Field, as long as his status and strength increased, he would still have a chance at revenge. Most importantly, if he continued to be dispirited because of this, he really wouldn't be able to take revenge. Thinking of this, Yuan Ma suddenly made some movements. Little junior sister, you're right, he said in a hoarse voice. I really should pull myself together and work hard to increase my strength. Saying this, he raised his hand and grabbed the pendant hanging around his neck. It was a half-moon-shaped jade pendant. It was completely transparent and embellished with a crescent moon. He didn't know what this jade pendant was made of. At first glance, it didn't look any different from ordinary jade pendants. However, Yuan Ma knew that this jade pendant's origin was extraordinary. All these years, if it weren't for this jade pendant, his strength wouldn't have improved so much. His title as the #1 genius of Tianyu Empire came mostly from this jade pendant. Yuan Ma was born with a cold illness. It was an illness that came from his mother's womb. When he was just born, he almost died. Even if he was later saved by Luo Qingtong's mother, it was already a great fortune for him to be able to live a healthy life. How could he have more talent and strength than ordinary geniuses? All of this was because of this jade pendant on his body. Back then, when his parents saw Luo Qingtong's mother's extraordinary medical skills, they arranged a marriage between him and Luo Qingtong, so that if his cold illness flared up again, there would be someone to save him. After all, he was the only son's father's most. But who would have thought that this marriage zestites was ses 8 the number one geniuses too? Even after he came to the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin, his strength and talent weren't inferior to those geniuses here at all. Everyone said that he was arrogant, and thought he wasn't inferior to those geniuses in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. But they didn't know that his arrogance was completely traceable. Luo Qingtong's mother's identity was extraordinary. Thinking of the words he eavesdropped when he was a child, Yuanma's eyes turned cold. He would definitely carry out his marriage with Luo Qingtong to the end. Especially now that the royal family of Tianyu had been destroyed, he had to seize this marriage with Luo Qingtong even more. Chapter 795. What did a mere true spill continent count for? Even that evil Dr. Ghost Eye was nothing. He would definitely avenge Tianyu's royal family. Even if evil Dr. Ghost Eye had the support of the Black Field, it would still be the same. But before that, he had to teach the Ling family, who had stolen the throne of Tianyu's royal family, a lesson. Thinking this, Yuanma sneered. Did they think that just because they followed evil Dr. Ghost Eye, he couldn't touch them? Yes, he couldn't touch them now. He couldn't even stop them from stealing the throne of Tianyu Empire. But he could still teach them a lesson and humiliate them. There were also the Ling family siblings. He heard that they had also entered the Tianyu Branch Academy. Thinking of the news he had obtained, the sneer on Yuanma's face became even more obvious. As for Luo Qingtong, who had also entered the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy, he didn't care about her at all. Stupid woman. She didn't even know that she was being used as a shield and a sword. Yuanma absolutely didn't believe that Luo Qingtong could enter the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy as the top student of the Tianyu Branch Academy. He didn't know how many tricks were involved in this exam. And he heard that the Ling family siblings called her boss. He also heard that she had defeated a Sage Realm powerhouse in the Tianyu Branch Academy. This was simply ridiculous. Even a fantasy story wouldn't work like this. The biggest possibility was that the Ling family had been ordered by evil Dr. Ghost Eye to use Luo Qingtong as a shield and a sword to deal with him. Unfortunately, they were wrong. He didn't want to marry anyone other than Luo Qingtong, not because he had deep feelings for her. If they wanted to use that woman to deal with him, then the final result would only be to humiliate themselves. Luo Qingtong had better know her place. Don't be so stupid as to think that she was the only one who could provoke him. Otherwise, besides the marriage, he wouldn't give her any face. If it weren't for her mother's identity, with Luo Qingtong's talent and strength, she wouldn't even have the qualifications to be his concubine. Thinking of this, Yuanma coldly ordered someone to call his supporters from the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin over. Many of those people were disciples of great clans in the sacred dynasty of the Empire of Qin. It was impossible for them to change the court's decision. It was even more impossible for him to go against Blackfield, an evil Dr. Ghost Eye for him. However, it was still possible for them to make things difficult for the Ling family. As for the Ling siblings, naturally, he would treat them well. Yuan Mo's lips curled into a sneer. Luo Qingtong's consciousness returned to her body after her power was exhausted. Jiuwu Mountain Range, Heavenly Evil Valley. Luo Qingtong steered the spirit boat all the way in without any hindrance. The people of the Heavenly Evil Valley, along with the Luo family's Iron Army, had been sent to the far west desolate region by her, Suyu. At this moment, the Heavenly Evil Valley was empty. Luo Qingtong went straight to the place where she had placed the treasury of the Tianyu royal family. Setting up a formation, she began to extract the bloodline power from the seventh prince of the Great Yong dynasty. Swoosh! Luo Qingtong threw out the square immortal cauldron. In an instant, the cauldron expanded with the wind. In an instant, it turned into a huge cauldron that was dozens of meters tall. Luo Qingtong pointed her finger, and the seventh prince of Yong's body flew up and was thrown into the cauldron. Boom! Luo Qingtong activated the square immortal cauldron, according to the method that she had analyzed with her eye technique. The cauldron instantly changed its appearance. After Luo Qingtong used the analysis method, the bronze cauldron instantly changed its appearance. The color of its body turned silver, and the sun, moon, and stars on it turned into a pattern of fish, insects, and birds. Chapter 796. Luo Qingtong looked at this scene in shock. When she practiced these techniques alone, this scene did not appear. This square divine cauldron was really extraordinary. She did not know if that heavenly doctor knew that she had lost to such a treasure. Feng Yuan did not know that Luo Qingtong had activated the true function of the square divine cauldron. However, when the seventh prince's corpse was smelted by the square divine cauldron, she felt a sharp pain in her heart. Although it was only for a moment, it still caused her expression to change. Buzz! Feng Yuan's expression changed. In the holy capital of Great Yong, above the heavenly temple, a wail suddenly sounded. A faintly discernible spiritual energy dragon that ordinary people could not see was occupying the heavenly temple. Its head was held high, and the dragon's body was coiled up as it disappeared into the heavenly temple. Dragon of Destiny, what's going on? The Emperor's dragon aura is wailing. The fate of Great Yong has been stolen. What happened? Following the commotion in the heavenly temple, many experts of Great Yong's royal family were alarmed. The loss of bloodline power was a big deal. Not to mention that the fate of Great Yong's royal family represented the fate of Great Yong dynasty. The loss of their bloodline power meant that the fate of Great Yong was also reduced. This fate of Great Yong's royal family was not to be underestimated. It was directly related to the future development and prosperity of the Great Yong dynasty and the royal family. Seeing this dragon of destiny wail, the entire royal family of Great Yong was instantly shaken. As for Feng Yuan, when he saw the dragon of providence that appeared, his expression became extremely unsightly. That was the manifestation of the dragon aura that represented the fate of Great Yong's royal family. At the same time, it was also the symbol of their royal bloodline. Now that it had appeared with a wail, it was obvious that the bloodline power of Great Yong's royal family had been lost. What was going on? Without Great Yong's unique method, it was absolutely impossible for anyone to steal the bloodline power of Great Yong's royal family. Feng Yuan instantly thought of the corpse of the seventh prince of Great Yong. Could it be that the bloodline power in seventh uncle's corpse had been stolen? But how did the other party do it? She gritted her teeth. At this moment, the voice of the green smoke in her body sounded. Looks like I've underestimated that evil Dr. Ghost Eye's ability. That four-sided immortal cauldron fell into her hands, so she must have seen through its usage. Your seventh imperial uncle's corpse must have been refined by her using the square immortal cauldron. What? Feng Yuan fiercely bit his lips. Could it be that it's not just a cauldron for refining pills? No matter how powerful it was, it should only be a cauldron for refining pills. Who told you that it's just a cauldron for alchemy? That wisp of green smoke scolded her. Since it's a divine cauldron, it's naturally not something an ordinary cauldron can compare to. That's why I said earlier that you made a big mistake. However, although she was able to see some of the uses of the divine cauldron, that should be the end of it. Think of a way to get that cauldron back as soon as possible. The things hidden in there are not ordinary things that can be compared to. Yes, Feng Yuan agreed, but the nails in her hand dug into the palm of her hand. That divine cauldron was actually so powerful. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have used that divine cauldron to gamble with the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Now, not only had she lost that divine cauldron, she had also stolen the bloodline power in seventh uncle's body. This matter was so big that even if she was a princess, she would still be punished. Just as Feng Yuan was thinking this, a servant girl hurriedly came to report. Not good. Your Highness, the ancestor is furious and summons you to the palace. Chapter 797. A golden draconic aura emerged from the square immortal cauldron in front of her. Mixed with the bloodline aura extracted from the seventh prince's body, it circled around in front of Luo Qingtong. What is this? Luo Qingtong's finger gently wrapped around the golden draconic aura. Haha, this is the Great Yong Dynasty's draconic aura, the symbol of a great dynasty's fortune. I didn't expect that this square immortal cauldron would extract a trace of Great Yong's fortune, while extracting the bloodline power from the seventh prince's body. That's right. This seventh prince is an important figure in the Great Yong imperial family, and his strength is not weak. The loss of the bloodline power in his body means that the Great Yong imperial family's strength is affected, and their fortune is weakened. Naturally, a trace of the nation's fortune is affected. I didn't expect that this square immortal cauldron would be able to extract that trace of fortune from his body. As expected of the Divine King's cauldron, Little Pig was so happy that it jumped on her shoulder. That Princess Feng Yuan will definitely be angered to death. It covered its round and tender belly and said, "She must have thought that you wouldn't be able to obtain the bloodline power in the seventh prince's body. Therefore, although she was unwilling to leave, she didn't think too much about it. Now that the Great Yong dynasty's fortune has been lost, she must be regretting it to death." Little Pig was overjoyed. She went for wool but came home shorn. She coveted the throne of Great Chu, and wanted to deal with your grandmother. Great, now she's the one being dealt with. Losing this trace of the nation's fortune, the Great Chu imperial family will definitely be furious. That saintly conferred princess will also suffer great misfortune. Hearing his words, Luo Qingtong smiled faintly. She was naturally willing to see her enemy suffer misfortune. In that case, I have to thank that divine heavenly doctor, Luo Qingtong said with a smile. If it weren't for him, she wouldn't have been able to obtain this divine cauldron, nor would she have been able to extract the bloodline power from the seventh prince's body, let alone this trace of Great Yong's fortune. From the looks of it, this rotten peach blossom that Yi Qianxian had attracted was not really a problem, Luo Qingtong said. She raised her hand and put the golden dragon, Qi mixed with the bloodline power into her waist ring. When grandfather marries Empress Dowager Yin Shi, I'll send this wisp of Great Yong's destiny and this ball of bloodline power as a congratulatory gift. Luo Qingtong wouldn't let anyone look down on old Master Luo. The reason why the latter married Empress Dowager Yin Shi was obviously to make up for the regrets and misses of the past few decades. Even if her grandmother wasn't Empress Dowager Yin Shi, it would still be the same. However, it was inevitable that some people would think that they had gotten lucky and climbed up the social ladder. Luo Qingtong naturally wouldn't let this happen. On the day of old Master Luo's wedding, she would let the world know that the Luo family did not climb the social ladder of the Chu royal family. Her grandfather was completely worthy of Empress Dowager Yin Shi. She was worthy of the title of Great Chu's Empress Dowager. Alright, next I can refine the pill. Luo Qingtong twisted the appearance of the square immortal cauldron back to the original bronze cauldron with the sun, moon, and star chart. She took out all the good medicinal herbs from the Tianyu imperial family's treasury and began to refine the pill. Luo Qingtong, who had already mastered the low-level inscription technique, could completely utilize the medicinal strength of the medicinal herbs at 200%. The medicinal strength of the refined pill was much richer and purer than before. Chapter 798. Oh my God! Little Pig stared at the pills that Luo Qingtong refined with wide eyes. In this world, probably only a perverted woman like you can refine a low-grade pill that can actually display the effects of a middle-grade pill. No other alchemist could compare to Luo Qingtong with her perfect refinement and inscription technique. After all, inscription technique wasn't easy to learn, not to mention other inscription masters. It was already amazing if they could learn inscription technique. How could they also be an alchemist? Only a perverted woman like Luo Qingtong could refine pills and pills perfectly. She also knew how to set up arrays without a teacher. Little Pig didn't know how she did it. She seemed to understand something that others spent decades, or even hundreds of years to comprehend with just a glance. This kind of talent was simply terrifying. Little Pig didn't know how a monster like Luo Qingtong could exist in this world. She was simply living to shock people. Swoosh! Luo Qingtong collected all the pills refined in the square immortal cauldron and stored them in a jade bottle. Then she frowned. She was wrong before. Originally, She thought that the Tianyu imperial family's treasury, in the heavenly evil valley, was enough for her to refine pills for her grandfather. But now, it seemed that there were too few pills. Luo Qingtong naturally had to spend a lot of money. Otherwise, it wouldn't be enough to intimidate everyone and change people's impression of Grandfather Luo. Anyway, those pills were for Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yanxi. Luo Qingtong didn't feel any heartache and treated it as a show of filial piety. However, Luo Qingtong had used a lot of the medicinal herbs in the Tianyu imperial family's treasury to increase the strength of the Luo family's army and the heavenly evil valley. She forgot to replenish them. The amount of pills refined was too little. Luo Qingtong thought for a while, and then remembered that the Ling family was about to ascend to the throne. She would go to the Tianyu Empire to borrow some medicinal herbs, so that she wouldn't have to go to the Black Field. At the same time, she would also give the Ling family a congratulatory gift for their ascension. After all, she was the one who helped him get to his current position. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong packed up the things in the Evil Valley and prepared to go to the capital of the Tianyu Empire. When Luo Qingtong was preparing to go to the Tianyu Empire, in the Lanyue family, Lanyue read a piece of information from the Great Chu and was surprised. This girl from the Luo family is really something. Old Master Yin Yu said with a smile as he looked at the report in his hand. Great Chu's Saint Princess was conferred, and it was the transcendent saint of Great Chu who had personally done it. This was incredible. Moreover, that old Master Luo, the country-guarding Marquis of the Eastern Fence country, had actually become the Empress Dowager of the Great Chu dynasty, and had obtained the recognition of the Great Chu dynasty's imperial family. He was about to marry Empress Dowager Yanxi. If he hadn't seen the information with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it. That girl from the Luo family was too powerful. He really didn't know how she did it. It was said that Great Yang's men were also present at that time. He was actually defeated by her. Furthermore, she had yet to reveal her identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. That was a rare sight. Old Master Yin Yu's face was full of admiration. If such a girl was born in his family, how wonderful would it be? If Luo Qingtong had achieved such an achievement as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, Old Master Yin Yu wouldn't have been so surprised and amazed. After all, Luo Qingtong's identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye was extremely popular in the True Spill continent and was sought after by many. No matter who heard her, they would have to give her some face. Not to mention that she had the entire Black Field as her backer. But in fact, Luo Qingtong had not revealed her identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, nor had she used the strength of the Black Field to force the people of Great Yong to retreat. Chapter 799. This method was really heaven-defying. Fortunately, his family was on good terms with the other party. Otherwise, such an enemy would be too terrible. Master Lanyue thought of the unlucky Tianyu imperial family. How could the Yuan clan be so arrogant? They didn't treat such a talented and powerful daughter-in-law well. Instead, they despised her and looked down on her. They belittled the Luo clan and Luo Qingtong to the bone. Finally, after knowing Luo Qingtong's identity as evil Dr. Gui Tong, they even wanted to control her. They really dug their own graves. This was great. Wouldn't the entire clan be destroyed as they went on and on? If Yuan Mo hadn't been in the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy, he probably wouldn't have been able to escape. They really had holes in their brains. Especially that Yuan Mo. The hole in his brain was too big. He despised such a good daughter-in-law. If he had protected Luo Qingtong a little, the Tianyu imperial family wouldn't have been so excessive. The enmity between Luo Qingtong and the Luo clan and the Tianyu imperial family wouldn't have been so deep. As old Master Lanyue was thinking this, his hand that was stroking his beard suddenly paused. Wait, the Tianyu imperial family and Yuan Mo didn't like her. But he did. His grandson was well versed in both literature and martial arts. He was talented and was from that place. If he could match him with that girl from the Luo clan. Master Lanyue thought of his grandson's interaction with Luo Qingtong when he came back last time. His eyes lit up, and he hurriedly sent someone to write a letter to Lanyue Ju, telling him what had happened to Luo Qingtong recently. In the end, He praised Luo Qingtang greatly. As for Yi Qianxian, in Master Lan Yue's view, his protection of Luo Qingtang was completely out of love for her talent. Evil Dr. Gui Tong's identity in the Black Field was a man. How could Ming Zun be tempted by a man? Those who said he was gay were simply nonsense. Moreover, if evil Dr. Ghost Eye and Ming Zun really had such a relationship, why would the former try so hard to avoid the latter? Those words about evil Dr. Ghost Pupil being Ming Zun's lover were probably said by Ming Zun to protect evil Dr. Ghost Pupil and intimidate others. Thinking of this, Master Lan Yue suddenly burst into laughter. Anyway, it would be best if he could matchmake Luo Qingtang and his grandson. Even if he couldn't, it wouldn't matter. Just as Master Lan Yue was lost in thought, a servant's report came from outside. Old man, Grand Tutor Jiang of the Empire of Qin Dynasty is here to see you. Imperial Tutor Jiang? Old Master Lan Yue looked surprised. This person was one of the pillars of the Empire of Qin's Holy Dynasty. He had a high position and great power. He was the Grand Tutor of the Crown Prince. He had been a senior official for 3 dynasties. In the future, when the Crown Prince ascended to the throne, he would also be an important official of the country. Why would he appear in the Tianyu Empire and visit him? Suddenly, he remembered that Luo Qingtang had become the Holy Princess of Great Chu. Could it be because of this matter that Grand Tutor Jiang was on his way to the Luo family of Dongli State to congratulate them and pass by the Tianyu Empire? If that was the case, it would make sense. After all, it was not a trivial matter to confer a holy princess. The Empire of Qin's Holy Dynasty had to send someone to congratulate them. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that the Empress Dowager's second marriage would damage Great Chu's reputation, and the fact that Luo Qingtang was conferred the title of Holy Princess of Great Chu was not made public, the Empire of Qin's Holy Dynasty's congratulations would be even grander. Now, only some higher-ups knew about this matter. The Empire of Qin's Holy Dynasty had already shown enough sincerity and respect by sending Jiang Huai, the Grand Tutor of the Crown Prince. Chapter 800. Outside the gates of the Lan Yue family's residence, there was a carriage that looked very unremarkable, but was actually a rare treasure. Sitting beside Grand Tutor Jiang was a youth in ordinary clothing. The youth's face was handsome and gentle, and his temperament was like a clear spring, making others feel comfortable and happy. Sitting there, he was like a slender bamboo. His entire body was filled with a scholarly and graceful air. Your Imperial Highness the Crown Prince, there is no need for you to personally go to the Luo household. That Luo Qingtang should not be in the Luo household right now, Grand Tutor Jiang said to the youth beside him. It's fine. I just came out to relax. The youth waved his hand, his voice indescribably gentle and elegant. I didn't expect to see her either. However, I am truly curious about that Luo Qingtang. What kind of girl is she to be able to reach such a level? The youth asked with a light smile. I heard that Feng Wan also went to the Empress Dowager's groom selection? She didn't gain any advantage over her? The youth smiled with a clear and handsome face. Feng Wan is Great Yang's #1 princess and genius. She has crushed countless members of our 4 sacred dynasties' imperial families and talented youths. Yet, she was suppressed by Luo Qingtang, a girl from an inferior marquis household? I am truly curious. What kind of charm does such a girl have? At this point, Grand Tutor Jiang smiled and said, If your Imperial Highness really wants to get acquainted with her, then wait until she enters the holy capital of the Empire of Qin. Didn't they say that she has already been admitted to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin? It was only because she had to ask for leave that she didn't go to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin to register. Because of this matter, the entire Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin was in an uproar for a long time. I don't know what she has done to deserve such kindness from the Holy Academy. After all, it is extremely difficult for an ordinary person, even if he is the Crown Prince, to ask for a day off is extremely difficult. Also, I heard that her Tianyu Academy set a new record for all the academies in the Empire of Qin. Out of the 10 people who entered the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin, 8 of them were heaven-rank candidates. That's already the highest number of academies. Although some of them are not worthy of the name, to be able to receive such grace from the holy court, I'm afraid this Luo Qingtong is indeed extraordinary. It's said that she's the leader of those heaven-ranked candidates. That's right. I've heard of this as well, the crown prince of the Empire of Qin said with a smile. That's why I came out with the Grand Tutor after hearing about her deeds. It would be best if we could meet each other. If not, then we can only meet each other in the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin. But at that time, I'm afraid it won't be just me who wants to get to know her. At this point, the young man's elegant aura suddenly radiated with a hint of domineering aura. This was the domineering aura of a king that could only be cultivated as a crown prince and crown prince. No matter how elegant a person was, he wasn't a completely harmless little animal. He was a resting tiger pretending to be harmless. Yes, Grand Tutor Jiang seemed to know what the young man was about to say. He nodded and was about to say something when the door to the Lanhua clan opened. He immediately shut his mouth. The young man's aura also retracted, making him look like a personal servant who followed Grand Tutor Jiang. The two of them followed the servants of the Lanhua clan inside. Chapter 801. They want us to humiliate the Ling family, so that they can't inherit the throne of the Tianyu Empire? The envoy from the Empire of Qin frowned as he read the letter. The one who sent the letter was the eldest son of their clan leader. He was the one who had the most potential in their clan. This letter had the family's seal on it. Obviously, the envoy had gotten the clan's approval. But to humiliate the Ling family, so that they couldn't inherit the throne of the Tianyu Empire? The Ling family's ascension to the throne was supported by evil Dr. Gui Tong. When the Tianyu Empire changed hands, the Ling family requested to inherit the throne of the Tianyu Empire. The Empire of Qin had already agreed. After all, it was just an empire. For the Empire of Qin, it didn't matter who ascended to the throne, not to mention the black field behind evil Dr. Gui Tong. The Empire of Qin wouldn't provoke and offend the black field over such a trivial matter. But now, the clan was asking them to humiliate the Ling family. The envoy from the great Qin sacred dynasty was put in a difficult position. At this moment, the person beside him suggested, "My lord, I think the message is asking us to humiliate the Ling family, so that they will give up the throne of the Tianyu Empire." The subordinate said, "Think about it. The Empire of Qin gave the black field a name, and acknowledged their legitimacy to inherit the throne of the Tianyu Empire. That's the grace of the Empire of Qin. But what if the Ling family is arrogant and doesn't take the Empire of Qin seriously? Then this grace will be wasted, won't it?" The subordinate said with a sinister smile. "We'll do whatever we want when we get there. Whether the Ling family can't stand it and give up or resist, we'll achieve our goal. My lord, I heard that the eldest son of your clan is in the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin and has a good relationship with Yuan Ma. You're probably helping him vent his anger. My lord, if you do this well, you won't be punished at all. Instead, you'll be doing a meritorious deed for the clan. At that time, with the support of the clan, my lord's strength and status will definitely rise to another level," the subordinate said respectfully. Hearing that, the envoy narrowed his eyes and laughed. Then he laughed and said, "That's right." He patted his subordinate's shoulder and said, "You're right. If that's the case, the sacred dynasty won't be able to blame anyone. Moreover, he would be able to complete the task assigned to him by his clan, and from then on, he would have a meteoric rise." "Wonderful." The envoy clapped his hands. "When we enter Tianyu's imperial capital, there's no need to give them any face. Humiliate him to death. Oh right, which Ling clan rose to power by stepping on Yuan clan?" The envoy rolled his eyes and immediately came up with an idea. It would be a wonderful thing if he could ruin the Ling family's succession to the throne of the Tianyu Empire and curry favor with young master Yuan Mo. Thinking of this, the envoy ordered his men to speed up towards the Tianyu Empire. In the imperial palace of the Tianyu Empire, Grandfather Ling was pleasantly surprised to see Luo Qingtong. "Miss Qingtong," he said respectfully. Without Luo Qingtong's permission, he didn't reveal her identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Seeing his actions, A few of the Ling family's juniors present were shocked. Why is grandfather so respectful to her? Chapter 802. She looked at Luo Qingtong's beautiful face, and a trace of displeasure flashed across her face. Qiu Manling followed her mother back to the Ling family. As the daughter of the Ling family who had married the best, she was very confident in the Ling family. The Qiu family was quite famous in the Blue Moon Commandery of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty. A commandery was a vassal state established in the territories of the princes and princesses of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty. It was also a subordinate of the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty, and had to pay tribute to the dynasty. However, in terms of strength and status, it was superior to the empire. Qiu Manling was born in the Blue Moon Commandery, and was naturally arrogant. If the Ling family hadn't obtained the throne of the Tianyu Empire, she wouldn't have returned to the Ling family. Now that he saw grandfather Ling treating Luo Qingtong so intimately and respectfully, he instantly felt indignant. Even the other party didn't treat her like this. Could it be that her status, as the legitimate daughter of the Qiu family, in the Blue Moon Commandery, couldn't compare to this young girl in front of her? Qiu Manling didn't think the Ling family would be acquainted with the legitimate daughter of a powerful family. After all, it was said that this time, the throne was won by the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. If the Ling family had connections in the Empire of Qin's Sacred Dynasty, why would they need the other party's help? Thinking of this, Qiu Manling's expression became even more arrogant and dissatisfied. I don't know either. The Ling family girl she asked shook her head and said, but I heard that she is the legitimate daughter of the Luo family in the easternly country? When she heard the name Qingtong, she had some impression. After all, she was engaged to UNMO. Soon, she remembered Luo Qingtong's identity, and immediately told Qiu Manling. When she heard that the other party was only the legitimate daughter of a marquis from an inferior country, and was engaged to the former Yuan imperial family of the Tianyu Empire, a trace of disdain flashed across Qiu Manling's face. The people of the Ling family really had no confidence at all. They had to curry favor with such a person. Were they afraid that the other party would cause trouble for them? That's right. After all, they didn't rely on their own strength to destroy the former imperial family. But what was wrong with this Luo Qingtong? The Yuan family was already destroyed, and she still came to ask for money? If she was in her shoes, she wouldn't be shameless. Qiu Manling looked at Luo Qingtong with disdain. After grandfather Ling and Luo Qingtong chatted for a while and left, she led a group of Ling family disciples forward. She looked up at Luo Qingtong and said, "May I know where elder sister is from?" Seeing the young masters and young mistresses of the Ling family, "You didn't even greet us. You must have an extraordinary background, right? Can you tell us so that we can pay s?" She of Qingtong's, Qiu said of the families of the capital of the Qin family, S's. Was Qiu's. She clearly knew Luo Qingtong's identity, but she purposely asked. Then she mentioned her identity and the matter of her greeting. She was pressuring Luo Qingtong. Manling. Hearing her words, the Ling family's young girl beside her hurriedly pulled her back. No matter what the other party's background was, she was still grandfather Ling's guest. It wasn't good for them to target her like this. Luo Qingtong raised her brows and looked at the young girl standing in front of her. The other party was using her status to pressure her? Luo Qingtong found it funny. With her status as a princess of the great Chu sacred dynasty, even if the one standing here was the sage emperor of the Empire of Qin, she didn't need to kneel, bow, or salute. Chapter 803. For the sake of the Ling family, Luo Qingtong didn't want to bicker with them. She looked at the group of curious Ling family youths behind Qiu Manling and nodded with a faint smile. Luo Qingtong. These people weren't here to cause trouble for her. Besides, they were Ling Yu, and Ling Tianhan's siblings. Luo Qingtong thought for a moment, then took out a few jade bottles and handed them to them. These are the gifts that Tianhan and you asked me to bring you. After all, they were half a family. Luo Qingtong didn't mind helping Ling Yu, and Ling Tianhan out. Moreover, grandfather Ling had just agreed to help her transfer the medicinal ingredients. The Ling family was preparing for the coronation and was very busy. Since old Master Ling was so concerned about her, Luo Qingtong naturally had to return the favor. These jade bottles contained pills that she had refined for the Luo family's soldiers and the Heavenly Evil Valley. They were pills that could improve their physique. They weren't very precious to her, but to the outside world they were priceless. Combined with Luo Qingtong's medicinal liquid, the effects would be greatly enhanced. Taking them over a long period of time would improve one's innate talent. I wonder what kind of trash these are. Qiu Manling looked at the jade bottles with disdain. With the other party's status as a low-level family from a low-level country, what good things could he bring out? What gifts for Ling Tianhan and Ling Yuer? She must be afraid that others would reject her gifts and look bad. So she purposely said that? Qiu Manling's expression became even more disdainful. She wouldn't want these things even if they were given to her. In fact, Luo Qingtong didn't intend to give them to her. She had only prepared a portion for the Ling family disciples. When it was Qiu Manling's turn, there wasn't any left. In any case, this young miss of the Qiu family didn't care about her trash, right? Luo Qingtong's smile was faint. Qiu Manling looked at her and gritted her teeth. She said, "Luo Qingtong, I remember your name. Aren't you the legitimate daughter of a marquis from an inferior country that the royal family of Tianyu despises?" She sneered at Luo Qingtong. "What? Now that the royal family of Tianyu has been destroyed, you have no one to rely on. So you want to rely on the Ling family? Do you think that just because Tianyu's royal family doesn't want you, our Ling clan will? Even if the fifth prince doesn't like you, would cousin Tianhan like you? Let me tell you, stop daydreaming." The moment Qiu Manling said that, Little Pig's voice rang out in Luo Qingtong's mind. "Oh my god, I'm so happy. So your backing is the royal family of Tianyu, and now you want to rely on the Ling clan? Ling Tianhan doesn't even like you. I can't take it anymore. I'm dying of laughter. Oh my god. Even if you gave Ling Tianhan that chance, he wouldn't dare to take a fancy to you. Damn. Also, what the hell was he trying to do with the Ling family? Didn't they see how respectful old Master Ling was just now? Also, Little Pig was laughing so hard that he was about to collapse in Luo Qingtong's sleeve. Tianyu's royal family was destroyed by you. This girl has a bright future in telling jokes. I can't take it anymore. I'm dying of laughter. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but laugh at Little Pig's words. Qiu Manling was instantly enraged when she saw the smile on her face. Chapter 804. The moment she said that, Luo Qingtong's expression turned cold. She couldn't be bothered to argue with her. Did she really think she was afraid of her? Leave the Ling family? She would like to see who would leave the Ling family. Just as Luo Qingtong's expression turned cold, there was a sudden commotion outside. Quick, quick, quick! The envoy from the Empire of Qin is here. He's already in the main hall. Young masters and young ladies, let's hurry to the main hall to welcome him. A group of Ling family servants rushed in from outside, their faces full of joy. They had just received a notice from outside that the envoy from the Empire of Qin was here to announce the decree. This was an important matter that couldn't be delayed. Qiu Manling's face lit up when she heard the servant's words. The envoy from the Empire of Qin was here. As the legitimate daughter of the Qiu family of Blue Moon Commandery, she would naturally be the one to be seated. Even the Ling family didn't have as much influence as she did. How could she not go to such a limelight event? She hurriedly lifted her skirt and was about to leave. However, she didn't forget about Luo Qingtong. Instead, she glanced at her and said, "Luo Qingtong, the envoy from the Empire of Qin is here. You should go to the main hall to take a look. See how big the gap between you and the Ling family is. Stop dreaming." Tianyu's royal family had an engagement with her, but the Ling family didn't. If she knew what was good for her, Luo Qingtong would stop pestering her. Otherwise, she would only be humiliating herself when she went to the main hall later. Manling. Hearing Qiu Manling's words, the Ling family disciples immediately voiced their disapproval. Qiu Manling had already gone overboard with her words. Now, she even called Luo Qingtong to the main hall to welcome the envoy from the Empire of Qin. What was she trying to do? To further humiliate Luo Qingtong? She was a guest of the Ling family, a guest of their grandfather. Manling had gone too far. A disciple of the Ling family said to Luo Qingtong, "Miss Luo, don't mind it. Just wait here for Grandpa." "It's okay," Luo Qingtong said indifferently. "Let's go together. Just as well. I also want to pay my respects to the elegant bearing of the envoy of the Empire of Qin." She also wanted to see how someone was going to humiliate her. Luo Qingtong said, and walked out with Qiu Manling and the others. Except for Luo Qingtong, everyone was excited. Qiu Manling, in particular, was chattering about the various powerful aspects of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, and how famous the Qiu clan was in Blue Moon Commandery. As a matter of fact, the Empire of Qin had been divided into countless commanderies. In the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, the Blue Moon Commandery could only be considered above average. The Qiu clan was famous in Blue Moon Commandery, but that was only in Blue Moon Commandery. In the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, they were nothing. However, the disciples of the Ling family did not know that. When they heard Qiu Manling talk about the Blue Moon Commandery and the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, they were all amazed. To them, the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty was powerful and mysterious. So was the Blue Moon Commandery. Needless to say, the Qiu clan was so famous in Blue Moon Commandery. The group of people whispered excitedly as they walked towards the main hall. Just as they stepped through the door of the side hall and were about to walk to the main hall, a loud bang suddenly came from the front. It was followed by Grandfather Ling's angry voice. "This is impossible. You must be dreaming. Wishful thinking." What was going on? Chapter 805. Weren't they receiving the invoice from the Empire of Qin? Why were they so angry? The group of people had a bad feeling. When they entered the side palace, they immediately saw Grandfather Ling and the others furiously confronting Great Qin's envoy and the others in front of them. Grandfather Ling, the envoys from the Empire of Qin were very arrogant. Especially the subordinates of the envoy who spoke. They looked at the Ling family members as if they were looking at a pile of trash. "Don't forget how your Ling family got the throne. The imperial family of Tianyu offended evil Dr. Gui Tong. But they didn't offend your Ling family, right? You stepped on their bones to get to the throne. Shouldn't you show some gratitude?" The subordinate sneered and raised his head, looking down his nose. "Our lord asked you to set up a monument for the Tianyu imperial family. That's doing your Ling clan a favor. It's fine if your Ling family doesn't appreciate it. How dare you yell at us? Old Master Ling, is the Ling family looking down on the sacred dynasty? Don't you want to accept the grace that the holy dynasty has given you? Truly arrogant, conceited, and insufferably arrogant. I think your Ling family doesn't want the throne anymore. Does your Ling family want to be exterminated?" The subordinate reprimanded sternly as he spoke. "Nonsense." Grandfather Ling was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He pointed at the group of Great Qin envoys and said, "Let's move all the memorial tablets of Tianyu's imperial family to our Ling clan's ancestral hall and worship them as our ancestral tablets." He also asked us to build a bronze statue of Emperor Tianyu in the imperial capital. He also asked us to mourn for the imperial family of Tianyu for 3 years. You're not asking us to erect tombstones for Tianyu's imperial family. You're trampling on the dignity of our Ling clan. I don't care what benefits Yuanma gave you to humiliate our Ling family like this. We'd rather die than agree to these conditions. Putting aside how humiliating it was to move the memorial tablets of the Tianyu royal family into the Ling family's ancestral hall, just the bronze statue of the Emperor of Tianyu and the ceremony of filial sons and grandsons for the Tianyu royal family to observe mourning for them. Even if the Ling family didn't have to do it for 3 years, as long as they did it for 1 day or 2 hours, they would be admitting to the imperial family of Tianyu. They would inherit the throne and the imperial family of Tianyu. By then, the Ling family would become the laughingstock of the world. Many empires would disdain to interact with them. Who would want to interact with a family that voluntarily admitted to being the imperial family's descendants? Were they shameless? Besides, Tianyu's imperial family was Luo Qingtong, If the Ling family helped Luo Qingtong, they would never do anything for them from the perspective of the Tianyu royal family. Therefore, Grandfather Ling would never agree to these three conditions. Don't make up so many excuses. Don't try to slander us. The subordinate snorted coldly. You people from the Ling family are treating the Holy Dynasty's grace as nothing. Chapter 806. You're so stubborn and have no regard for your superiors. You don't deserve to inherit the throne of the Tianyu Empire. I'll report what happened today to the imperial dynasty after we go back. Don't even think about the throne of the Ling family. In addition, he sneered, we'll definitely move the memorial tablets of the Tianyu imperial family into the heavenly temple. The people of your Ling family must also be filial to them for 3 days and 3 nights. If you don't want to, we'll force you. Guards. When the subordinate said this, he was about to order everyone in his team to take action. For the imperial dynasty of the Empire of Qin, even if it was just an ordinary entourage, the strength of the experts in it was enough to crush the Tianyu Empire and the Ling family. Seeing that the martial emperors were about to make a move, the faces of the Ling family's members instantly turned pale. At this moment, the group of boys and girls hurriedly cried out, "Wait!" As they spoke, they pushed Qiu Manling out. Our Ling family has the legitimate daughter of the Qiu family of Blue Moon Commandery. The Qiu family and our Ling family are in-laws. The group of young men and women of Ling clan were talking to each other. Crying, they turned to Qiu Manling and said, Manling, please talk to Great Qin's envoy. Tell them not to treat our Ling family like this. Didn't you say that the Qiu family is powerful in Blue Moon Commandery? Manling, help our Ling family. Qiu Manling's face stiffened. She had boasted in front of the Ling family members. But in fact, Blue Moon Commandery was just above average among the many commanderies of the Empire of Qin. The Qiu family was respected in Blue Moon Commandery, but it didn't mean they were respected in the Empire of Qin. If the Blue Moon Commandery's royal family members, or her father were here, the envoys might give them some face. But who was she? As expected, the envoys from the Empire of Qin laughed when they heard what the Ling family members said. Blue Moon Commandery? The Qiu family? I've never heard of it. There are so many commanderies in the Empire of Qin. I don't know where the Qiu family came from. As for this Qiu family's first daughter, she's not even a famous genius. Your Ling family is using her to pressure us? What a joke. The group of envoys from the Empire of Qin couldn't help but laugh out loud. Although their official position and strength were nothing in the Empire of Qin's holy dynasty, they were not people who could be suppressed by a commandery's family. Not to mention that the other party was only the daughter of the first wife of a family. She couldn't even be considered a genius. If it weren't for their family's orders, they might have given the other party some face. But now, he was only humiliating himself. The crowd was filled with disdain. Qiu Manling was even more flustered. She wished that there was a hole in the ground for her to crawl into. She could feel the disbelief in the eyes of the Ling family disciples as they looked at her. She felt an indescribable sense of humiliation. She had shown off too much in front of the Ling family. Who would have thought that these envoys from the Empire of Qin would attack her the moment they arrived? Their Qiu family's bit of strength was simply not enough in front of the other party. Do it. The envoy snorted coldly. Since the Ling family refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, he would fulfill their wish. They had to accept the offerings of the Tianyu royal family, whether they wanted to or not. Chapter 807. They would say that the Ling family was arrogant and didn't want to accept the Holy Dynasty's grace. They were deliberately provoking them. No matter how much the Holy Dynasty feared the Black Field, they wouldn't tolerate the Ling family's shameful behavior. After all, if the Ling family was able to humiliate the Holy Dynasty, what would happen to the numerous commanderies, empires, high-class, middle-class, and low-class countries under the Holy Dynasty of the Empire of Qin? If everyone followed the Ling family's example and humiliated the Holy Dynasty, what would happen to the Holy Dynasty's dignity and dignity? They couldn't make an exception. With that thought in mind, the envoy was filled with pride. So what if he was going to disobey the orders of the sacred dynasty? Would the Ling family be able to sue him in the Holy Dynasty? Even if they did, would the Holy Dynasty believe them? Or would they believe them? With that thought in mind, the envoy was about to order his men to attack mercilessly. At this moment, a clear voice rang out from behind the group of young men and women. The people from the Empire of Qin are indeed powerful. Everyone was stunned when they heard the voice, especially Grandfather Ling. He was so angry that he wanted to fight for his life. When he heard the voice, he seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes lit up with hope. How could he forget about that person? Grandfather Ling was too angry just now. These envoys from the Empire of Qin attacked him as soon as they arrived. He was so confused that he forgot that Luo Qingtong was still in the palace, with the young lady of the Luo family, the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. These people from the Empire of Qin wouldn't be able to get away with it. What's more, they were here to support the Tianyu imperial family. Putting everything else aside, Luo Qingtong wanted to destroy the royal family of Tianyu. The Ling family was just taking advantage of this opportunity to take over the throne of the Tianyu Empire. If these people from the Empire of Qin supported the Tianyu imperial family, they would offend no one but Luo Qingtong. With that thought, he immediately looked at Luo Qingtong with a hopeful gaze. Miss Qingtong. With Luo Qingtong around, as long as she revealed her identity as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, these people from the Empire of Qin wouldn't dare to be too presumptuous. In the end, they would have to hand over the decree obediently. The young men and women of the Ling family were shocked when they saw Luo Qingtong walk out from behind them. This was especially true for Qiu Manling. She looked at the beautiful girl walking past her, and her face was filled with jealousy and mockery. Luo Qingtong is courting death. She has no right to speak in front of the envoys from the Empire of Qin dynasty. Even I, the legitimate daughter of the Qiu family of the Blue Moon Commandery, am looked down upon by the envoys of the Great Qin Sacred Dynasty. What right does she have to stop them? Does she really think that she can convince the Great Qin Sacred Dynasty's envoys to let the Ling family go just because she is reasonable? The young men and family members of the Ling family had Luo Qingtong. They were very grateful that Luo Qingtong spoke up for the Ling family at this time. However, if the people from the Empire of Qin dynasty didn't even give face to Qiu Manling, it was useless for Luo Qingtong to speak up. The young men and women thought so, but they didn't see the surprised look on their parents' faces. Who are you? The envoy from the Empire of Qin dynasty frowned when he saw Luo Qingtong standing in front of the Ling family. You don't have the right to know who I am. Chapter 808. Haha. Upon hearing Luo Qingtong's words, the envoy burst into laughter, as though he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Did I hear that right? You want us to leave behind a decree and get out of the Tianyu palace? His face was full of mockery. This young girl who came out of nowhere probably doesn't know what the Empire of Qin dynasty means. Why are there so many ignorant people nowadays? The first daughter of the Blue Moon Commandery's Qiu family came out of nowhere. And now there's this unknown young girl. All right, since you want the decree, come and get it yourself. The envoy said as he took out the decree in his hand and raised it high with a sneer on his face. Let's not talk about whether she had the ability to take the decree from him. This decree was imbued with the Great Qin Sacred Dynasty's fate suppression. Without his official aura to remove it, anyone who touched this decree would be suppressed by the fate suppression on it. He wanted to see if the other party dared to come and take this decree. The envoy sneered. How dare this young girl, who came out of nowhere, say such things? Do it. As he said that, he waved his sleeves coldly. However, just as he said that, Luo Qingtong's figure flashed and instantly broke through the defenses of the people around him and appeared in front of him. You want me to take it myself? Luo Qingtong's face was indifferent, and her eyes were full of mischief. All right, I'll show it to you. This group of people from the Empire of Qin dynasty was not weak. Luo Qingtong did not want to waste time with them. She activated her pupil technique and broke through to the front of the envoy. She raised her hand and grabbed the decree in his hand. Silly girl, you don't know your place. The envoy from the Great Qin sacred dynasty was shocked that someone had broken through the defenses of his subordinates. But soon, he began to laugh coldly. Luo Qingtong actually dared to take the decree in his hand. She was trying to take away the decree of the Great Qin sacred dynasty by force. Was this girl crazy? It would be strange if she didn't die from the pressure of the empire's destiny. However, just as the envoy from the Great Qin sacred dynasty was thinking about this, his face was instantly filled with shock. He looked at the scene in front of him in shock. Luo Qingtong's hand grabbed the decree in his hand tightly and held it in her hand. This is impossible. The envoy from the Empire of Qin dynasty was shocked when he saw that Luo Qingtong was not sent flying by the pressure of the empire's destiny. In the next second, he came back to his senses and was about to rush forward and take back the decree. However, scram! Luo Qingtong held the decree of the Great Qin sacred dynasty and scolded him coldly. Bang! 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 In an instant, the decree in Luo Qingtong's hand shone brightly and sent the envoy from the Empire of Qin dynasty flying. Among them were the subordinates of the Empire of Qin dynasty, who were surrounding Luo Qingtong. Ah! Tragic screams rang out one after another. Luo Qingtong was the princess of the Great Chu dynasty. She drove the pressure of the empire's destiny on the decree of the Empire of Qin dynasty and sent the group of people from the Empire of Qin dynasty flying. Chapter 809. Who was Luo Qingtong? Princess Xingning of the Great Chu dynasty, a saint-conferred title, a half-emperor. With the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty in her hand, those envoys of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty had to bow their heads to her. No matter how strong they were, they wanted to snatch the decree of the Empire of Qin's holy dynasty from her hands, which meant that they were going against their superiors. Naturally, they would be suppressed by the imperial decree of the Empire of Qin. These people wanted to use the imperial decree to suppress Luo Qingtong, but they didn't expect that Luo Qingtong's status was much higher than theirs. Using the imperial decree of the Empire of Qin's imperial decree as a counterattack, the group of martial emperors were severely injured. That's impossible. The envoy from the Empire of Qin looked at Luo Qingtong with horror in his eyes. Who are you? How could he snatch the decree from his hands and use the pressure of the nation's fate to strike back at him? One had to know that only those with a higher status than him would be able to do this. What was going on? Who was the other party? Grandfather Ling and the others also looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise and shock. Especially Grandfather Ling. He thought that Luo Qingtong had to reveal her identity to stop the people from the Empire of Qin dynasty. This would make the other party hesitate in taking action. However, he did not expect that Luo Qingtong would snatch the decree of the Empire of Qin dynasty from the other party's hands. How did Miss Qingtong do it? As for Qiu Manling, who had previously looked down on Luo Qingtong, she was dumbfounded at this scene. Didn't they say that she was just a daughter of a marquis from an inferior country? How could he be so powerful? Was the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty so easily taken away? How could this be something that an inferior marquis's daughter could do? Recalling the disdainful words she had said to the other party, Qiu Manling's expression became even more interesting than when she was humiliated by the envoys of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty. It was a sea of red and white, green and purple. After a brief moment of shock, the envoy of the Empire of Qin dynasty came back to his senses. He looked at the Ling family and Luo Qingtong with indescribable anger. Good. Very good. No wonder the Ling family dared to look down on us and ignore the decree of the Empire of Qin dynasty. It turns out that you know an expert and want to seize it by force. The envoy from the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty was indescribably angry. They were all injured by Luo Qingtong's decree. As the saying goes, not only did you fail to suppress others, you were suppressed instead. Originally, they had planned to humiliate and teach the Ling family a lesson. While completing the mission given by their family, they also wanted to curry favor with Yuanma. They didn't expect that they would be taught a lesson instead. However, did the Ling family think that this was enough? They wanted to seize the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty. The Ling family was courting death. As for this young girl, he didn't care who she was. Since he dared to steal the decree of the Great Qin sacred dynasty, he had a reason to mobilize the guards of the Great Qin sacred dynasty, who came with him to escort the decree and kill him. Thinking of this, the envoy of the Empire of Qin instantly released the signal in his hand. Whoosh! Outside the Tianyu Palace, a group of guards from the Great Qin sacred dynasty, who were made up entirely of martial spirit realm cultivators, suddenly unleashed their auras and charged into the Tianyu Palace. Their duty was to protect the decree and safely deliver it to the Tianyu Imperial Palace. Chapter 810. Miss Qingtong. Sensing the terrifying aura coming from the outside, Grandfather Ling and the rest of the elders' faces changed. The group of experts outside was too powerful. Unless Luo Qingtong invited the people from the Black Field to help, they wouldn't be able to stop them. However, the main city of the Black Field in the Tianyu Empire was quite a distance away. Even if Luo Qingtong called them over, they wouldn't be able to arrive so quickly. Miss Qingtong, we'll risk our lives to escort you out. Please leave. Grandfather Ling gritted his teeth. No matter what, Luo Qingtong couldn't be harmed in the Ling family. Otherwise, no one would be able to bear the wrath of the Black Field. And the people of the Great Qin sacred dynasty in front of them had already decided to kill them. Under such circumstances, even if they exposed Luo Qingtong's identity, the other party wouldn't believe them. Under such circumstances, only by risking their lives to escort Luo Qingtong out would the Ling family have a chance to take revenge. Fortunately, Tianhan and Yu were still in the sacred court, leaving behind a trace of the Ling family's bloodline. With that in mind, Grandfather Ling was ready to risk his life to escort Luo Qingtong out of here. As long as they could leave the Tianyu Imperial Palace and enter the Lanyue family, they would be safe. These people from the Empire of Qin wouldn't dare to enter the Lanyue family's residence to cause trouble. While Grandfather Ling was thinking, Grand Tutor Jiang, who was chatting happily with Grandfather Lanyue and the Lanyue clan, suddenly frowned when he sensed the signal from Tianyu Palace. What's going on? Someone dares to seize the imperial decree by force? The person who could seize the imperial decree and ignore the imperial aura was definitely not weak. Grand Tutor Jiang frowned. It was fine if he didn't know about this. But since he knew, he couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Thinking of this, he bid farewell to Grandfather Lanyue and headed to the Tianyu Imperial Palace to investigate. If he was not mistaken, this should be the team sent by the Empire of Qin dynasty to the Ling family to deliver the decree of succession. Was there someone targeting them? Elder Lanyue also sensed the many powerful auras erupting from Sky Universe Imperial City. So many martial spirit realm experts? He frowned and immediately thought of the people from the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty. Thinking of the relationship between Luo Qingtong and the Ling family, he immediately prepared to make a trip there. Let's see what's going on. Grand Tutor Jiang also had the same idea. The group immediately flew toward Sky Universe Imperial Palace. In Tianyu Imperial Palace, Luo Qingtong looked indifferently at the group of guards from the Empire of Qin, who had rushed in, and said to Grandfather Ling, "All of you back off." Above the martial spirit realm was the half-saint realm. After comprehending and completely controlling the laws of heaven and earth, one could directly enter the saint realm. Once the two sides started fighting, these people from the Ling family would only be cannon fodder. As for what Grandfather Ling said about resisting with all his might to let her leave, that was just wishful thinking. A martial spirit realm expert, or a group of martial spirit realm experts at that. How could the people of the Ling family block them? However, Luo Qingtong had the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty in her hands, so she wasn't afraid of these people. If others snatched the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty, they wouldn't be able to trigger the pressure of the nation's fate on it. However, Luo Qingtong was different. She was a sacred princess with the title of sacred. In her hands, the decree of the Empire of Qin's sacred dynasty was her protective talisman. The pressure of the nation's fate on it would definitely protect her dignity as a sacred princess and not allow anyone to violate her. It had nothing to do with which country's sacred princess she was. You're tuning in to the Lee May's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.